What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. Today we're going to take a look at the decks that are being played and performing well over in Japan. Japan is now playing the same standard format that we will be playing once Brilliant Stars comes out here, which is the Regulation Mark D and on, or roughly Sword and Shield base set and on. So this is a good indication of what might be good when Brilliant Stars comes out here in North America. Now, when we are looking at these lists, they are coming from hohonews.com, and they are from tournament results from Japanese city leagues, which are kind of like league challenges or league cups here in North America and in all the TPCI areas. But definitely take note that these decks are being played and performing well in these smaller tournaments. It doesn't necessarily mean that these archetypes will definitely be good or that these lists are perfect. So I like to look at these as an indicator of what might be good and to also gather ideas to then make my own deck lists from. And it's pretty fun to peruse all of these deck lists. So we'll be briefly looking at a whole bunch of lists today. Before we get into that, shout out to PotonStore.com, the best place to get PTCGO codes. Use code Celio for 5% off, and you can also use code Celio over at CardTrooperGames.com. Check out the Beast Coast Pokemon YouTube channel and also PokemonCard.io for all of my standard format decks. All the links you'll need are in the description, and I'll also link OmniPoke's translation Google Drive for Brilliant Stars. In case you might not know what some of the new cards do, you can open up this Google Drive, maybe even while you're watching this video, and reference the new cards if you need the translations. So before we go into the specific lists, I do want to say that while looking over these lists or looking over the results, I'm not including every single deck that won or got second or top four because not every single deck has a list included in these articles on Ho Ho News. But the decks that I am seeing reported as being played a lot and also winning and getting second and top fouring, the most popular and most successful decks seem to be Mew VMAX, Arceus V-Star with Ice Rider. Rapid Strike Malamar is pretty popular and it's also getting results. Single Strike Gengar seems to be pretty popular. And then just general Arceus V-Star variants outside of the Arceus with Ice Rider. So let's jump in. First here we have Arceus V-Star with Duraludon VMAX and two oranges. Pictured with the deck list. So yeah, Arceus V-Star with Duraludon. I've already talked about this on the channel a bit, I believe. This seems like an archetype that kind of just makes itself. You know, Duraludon needs two different types of energies. Arceus can accelerate those energies. This list is including a single strike mustard, which I don't know how good that is. I guess you can just cheat out a Duraludon VMAX onto the board if you wish. So maybe that's good when you can just specifically search it out with Arceus V-Star Starbirth power, and you also have Ultra Ball to thin your hand down more than you would in our current format that we're playing over here. But overall, I think Arceus V-Star Duraludon will be a deck that gets played at least in the beginning, and then we'll have to see which Arceus V-Star variants actually stick around. But this looks like a decent list, and two oranges. Next, we have an Arceus V-Star kind of psychic box with Mewtwo V Union in it. It has glare. They've got some uh custom V Star and another looks like anime card sleeve kind of covering the Mewtwo V Union, but that is all four pieces of a Mewtwo V Union over to the right of this deck list. And V Unions become a little more intriguing with Brilliant Stars. Not only do they gain Ultra Ball to search them out and discard them from your hand, they also gain Arceus to not only search them out with Starbirth, but also accelerate energy onto the V Union once the V Union has hit the board. So, am I saying V Unions are instantly a competitive mechanic now? No, I'm not saying that, but they have more of a shot than they ever did before. Next, we have a Rapid Strike Urshifu with Arceus deck. I think this might just be throwing too much into one deck. Of course, the Arceus can search out 2 cards, and that's great. You can search out Telescopic Sight plus Passimian, Telescopic Sight plus uh, Rapid Strike Energy. But to me, this feels kind of like a mess. Prove me wrong if you wish. I'm not a fan of this one, but again, I'm leave these lists. We're perusing these lists for your information and your enjoyment. So if there's something you like, pause the video, screenshot it, and maybe you've already found a list you like by this point in the video, and you're already building a deck. And that's all I could hope for, is to influence, some new ideas by showing off these deck lists, and you guys get to have fun and build your own decks. Also, if you are building decks, I suggest using Pokegear.app, which is the best one to use right now while the new cards are not on PokemonCard.io yet. So what you do is you go to Pokegear.app, and let's go ahead over to here in Jack Old's Google Drive. We'll just download this real quick, and you can go to Pokegear.app. You can search for old cards. So let's say we want to put in Ice Rider V. We can do that quite easily, right? But we can't put new cards in. So what you do is you just drag that downloaded file image of Arceus V Star from the Google Drive and just drag it in. And you can add and subtract and maximize it, do whatever you want to it. So Pokegear.app, created by Jake Gearhart, a very good resource. Let's find our place here. So yeah, we were about to look at uh Baby Dark deck. This has been popular in the Play.Limitless online scene. I believe it was originally engineered by Ross Cawthon. We'll see here they add Manafee into the deck, and they add the new Cynthia's Guidance into the deck. Other than that, it remains quite similar. They do have one water energy in here that can be used for either that cast form or for the Intellion. But yeah, this is pretty similar to what we know of the Baby Dark deck in our format already. Next, we've got a Single Strike Gengar deck. I did mention that Single Strike Gengar is one of the more popular and more successful decks going on over in Japan right now. And that makes perfect sense to me because they just rotated their standard format. They just lost Team Up through Cosmic Eclipse. And at the beginning of a new format and a new set, typically straightforward aggressive decks are very good while everybody else is figuring out what to play. So it makes sense that something like this would be good. And also Mew VMAX is very strong and very popular over in Japan. So again, it would make sense that this is popular and successful. Next up, we have a Mew VMAX deck list. This is including 4 Ultra Ball. This is definitely a deck that wants to include 4 Ultra Ball. Not every deck will want to. This does. They are also including 2 of the new double turbo energies so that Mew VMAX can just attack in a single attachment, which can be very strong if your opponent is banking on you not being able to attach, or not be able to attack if you whiffed an energy or they removed energy or something like that. Next, we've got more Single Strike Gengar. This with the Mew from Celebrations. I do not think that is a better way to play the deck by any means, but this is just another list that we're sharing. And more Single Strike Gengar VMAX with Houndoom and Galarian Weezer and the new Lumineon V that when you play it down, you can search your deck for a supporter card. So this is definitely more of the kind of Single Strike Gengar list I would expect to see, and then go ahead and toss in Galarian Weezing. We can all appreciate a little bit of Galarian Weezing, though. Next, we've got more Mew VMAX. Again, 4 Ultra Ball, definitely correct. I have 4 Ultra Ball in my Mew VMAX draft for this set already. They've got 1 double turbo energy, and not much more to say about this deck going into Brilliant Stars. 4 Ultra Ball is huge for the deck, though. Here we've got Rapid Strike Intellion with a 1/1 Rapid Strike Urshifu line. New cards in the deck, just one Ultra Ball and one Manafee. So that one Manafee is definitely going to help a lot. Excuse me. That's going to help a lot versus Jolteon and other Rapid Strike Urshifu decks. More Mew VMAX. We've got the 4 Ultra Ball. We've got the 1 Double Turbo. We've got a PAL Pad, which is interesting. Other than that, kind of same old, Mew VMAX that we're used to, and what I expect it to look like with those 4 Ultra Ball and the somewhere between 0 to 2 Double Turbo energies. The Oricorio is something that we already add in sometimes over here, but it's not in every single list. And more Mew VMAX. I believe that is a scoop up net there behind the Oricorio, so that's a little different. But other than that, you see 4 Ultra Ball, 1 Double Turbo, and moving on. Here we've got some Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX with Galarian Moltres V. Any new cards, though, we do have 3 Ultra Ball in the deck, and the 3 Ultra Ball is actually pretty notable to mention for this archetype because you want to get those dark energy into the discard pile so that Moltres can accelerate them to itself. So that is something to mention that this deck gains. I mean, obviously every deck can gain Ultra Ball, but some decks want to discard cards and be more aggressive than other decks want to be. And this is definitely one of those decks that has something to gain from discarding specific cards. Here we have Jolteon VMAX. Now, Jolteon VMAX gets an obvious nerf just by Manafee bench barrier being printed, but if enough people don't play Manafee, then Jolteon is free to run rampant because people aren't expecting it because of all the Manafee. And that's how metagames will go a lot. You know, we saw this back in 2016, 2017 with Greninja Break and the Giratina promo. Giratina promo said breaks have no abilities, and Giratina Break needed to use its ability. So sometimes the whole tournament would be playing Giratina promos to tech for Greninja Break and get that auto win against it. And so sometimes people just wouldn't play Greninja Break. For the next tournament, people would say, oh, nobody's playing Greninja Break. We don't have to play our Giratinas. And that's when some people would, intelligently bring out the Greninja Break because people took the tech out of their deck. A very similar thing could happen between Jolteon and Manafee Bench Barrier, except Manafee Bench Barrier is pretty general. So if there are multiple threats to the bench, Manafee has more of a chance to be slotted into decks. Here we have some Rapid Strike Malamar. I did mention that this is one of the more popular decks being played, or at least one of the more reported decks over on Ho Ho News being played in these smaller events in Japan. Rapid Strike Malamar does gain the new Manafee bench barrier, however, we won't see it here in this list. It doesn't really gain much else, though. They are playing the Cynthia's Guidance supporter card in this, however. They're playing 4 of it, so maybe that is a supporter card that ends up getting played in this deck more than the current Corinna counts. Maybe Cynthia's Guidance ends up being really good for this deck. They are playing the Skip Plume and Jump Pluffs just because those are level ball searchable Rapid Strike cards, but you can't start them, so you don't have to worry about them being your starter Pokemon, but they're level ball searchable Rapid Strike. You can also search them with Octillery. They're just more cards to shuffle in for damage with Rapid Strike Malamar. And here, actually, were they playing Turffield Stadium there? Yeah, they're playing Turffield Stadium. Okay, so that's actually interesting. I saw that out of the corner of my eye as we were going on to the next deck list. So they play Turffield Stadium with the Jump Pluff and Skip Plume. So not only are they level ballable, but they're also able to be searched with Turffield. So that's like one extra card you can get every turn. That's smart. I like that. Here we have Arceus V-Star Ice Rider. I did feature this in some gameplay on the channel already, and I think this is just, at this point, looking to be one of the bread and butter Arceus variants that we're going to see inevitably, at least at the start. This kind of happened with Zoroark GX, and I will be making a video more about Arceus V-Star and also comparing it to Zoroark GX a bit. But this happened back in the day when Zoroark GX first came out. Everybody paired it with a Alolan Ninetales GX for like 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks, maybe a week and a half. Took it to League Cups and stuff, did well, and then it just fell off. It turned out Lycanroc GX and Golisopod GX and Garbodor were just better partners, and we never saw Zoroark GX, Alolan Ninetales GX again. Could that be what happens here, or am I just making a comparison because they both involve a water horse like thing? Who knows? But I do think this deck is pretty good. I can't say that it's insane. I can't say it's best deck in format yet. But it functions. It's good. I like the options you can work into it. I like uh the decisions you can make between what you want to attack with and when to use Arceus's ability. You can even use double turbo energy to attack with Ride of the High King on Ice Rider. I like the deck. I enjoy it. Next here we have Arceus V-Star with Umbreon VMAX and also Hoopa V. This is a cool one. This is cool. So as opposed to playing it with Galarian Moltres V, they're playing it with Umbreon VMAX. They're also playing a Sun and Moon badge. No, that's not. Yeah, that's a Sun and Moon badge. That can be attached to Umbreon VMAX, so it can't be gusted up by trainer cards. Like of course, Boss's Orders or Cross Switcher. Um, this one is not something that I saw before setting it aside to talk about in this video. Of course, Arceus V-Star plus Dark Attackers is a pretty public idea of what one of the Arceus V-Star variants that come out might be. But with Umbreon VMAX, I believe I saw Zach Lesage talk about an Arceus V-Star plus Umbreon VMAX list, but other than that, I haven't seen much mention or theory about this. I'm not sure I like it better than just playing Galarian Moltres V, because this adds a lot more evolutions to your deck, and sometimes you don't want to have to find any more evolutions other than Umbreon, but of course, this also means you have more gusting effect in your deck. I'm sorry, more evolutions than Arceus is what I meant to say. You don't want to have to also find Umbreon. But it also adds more gusting effects to your deck that are easier than playing a supporter. So I could give this a shot. Next, we have more Rapid Strike Urshifu with Rapid Strike Intellion. They are playing a Judge instead of Marnie, which I am not a fan of. I think Marnie is just always better to play, but maybe they like shuffling their hand back into their deck rather than putting important cards on the bottom. They are not playing the new Manafee, which is probably fine for this deck. They are playing one Ultra Ball, it looks like, and other than that, nothing really to note here for this deck. This is kind of an outdated deck. We already know about it. It didn't do much in our like play limitless online metagames, but Japan seems to still be playing it. Next, here we have Arceus V-Star Intellion, which is another archetype or variant of Arceus that I've talked about on the channel. And Galarian Moltres, the non-V, is here, included with Clara. Kind of like the Baby Dark deck includes Galarian Moltres and Clara. I think this is a combination of cards that we'll see a lot splashed into any Arceus deck that's either not already playing a basic energy type or chooses to play basic dark specifically. Here we have a Mad Party list. Of course, utilizing the new Manafee to protect the bench. I did see Andrew Mahone of Tricky Jim already posted a Mad Party deck. This one doesn't look too much different from Andrew's. I don't think Andrew was playing stadiums as of the time when he posted the list. But this looks pretty similar and it looks kind of smooth. I just don't know that Mad Party can really get the damage output that you want to see out of it. Of course, it gains double turbo, so you again have more than 4 special energies like you did before triple acceleration energy rotated. But I think people have kind of uh too high of expectations for this archetype. I don't personally expect too much out of it. Here we have more Rapid Strike Malamar. Again, you'll see that Skiploom Turffield Stadium combination, which is quite clever. I wonder if that's something that people are already doing, like in the play limitless metagame, and I just have missed it because I haven't been playing in many tournaments as of late. But that's pretty clever. They're also playing for Cynthia's Guidance, which seems to be what the Japanese players are choosing for their Rapid Strike Malamar decks. No Manafee in this one, so they're definitely living on the edge in that regard. Here we have another Arceus V-Star Intellion variant, and this one is going to be just straight Arceus Intellion. You have a Zigzagoon to add damage. You have a Dunsparce that removes fighting weakness from your colorless Pokemon, or removes all weakness from your colorless Pokemon, I believe. And then they're playing a few Melanie with Water Energies, Capacious Bucket, and just trying to be a very, very consistent Arceus Intellion deck. Not playing the Ice Rider package at all, not playing any alternate attackers, just focusing on the Arceus. Of course, they can use the Shady Dealings and Teleon to attack with Raihan plus attachment. They can attack with Aqua Bullet to use a single prize attacker. And lastly, one more Mew VMAX list to send it off because we haven't seen enough Mew VMAX the past couple months, right? Again, we'll see here for Ultra Ball, they added a double turbo. They added Choice Belt. The other lists had Choice Belt as well, I believe. I just forgot to mention that that was a card that Mew gains. Let's just review that real quick. Make sure that those Mew decks definitely had Choice Belt in them. Yeah, okay, yeah, they all had Choice Belt. I just kind of forgot to mention it. Choice Belt just replaces Vitality Band. If you were already playing Vitality Band in your Mew deck, Choice Belt's just better. And that's where we'll end it there for today. So I hope you enjoyed briefly perusing a whole bunch of Brilliant Stars standard format deck lists from Japanese tournaments. If you'd like me to do these videos in any other way, or if you love them just how they are, please leave it in the comments down below. I know there's a lot of regulars of the channel that look forward to these videos and looking at the Japanese lists from Ho Ho News, so I hope you did all enjoy it. And thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.